Okay, this is J Hawk Scott again, and this is a follow-up video to my first video on my Tunze controllable power heads, the 6105s. I've installed them into the tank. I don't even know if you can see them. I don't have lights on my tank yet, but they're actually right there. You can barely see it. I've got one on each side of the tank, and I actually mounted them to the overflow boxes, so the magnet is not on the outside of the glass, it's actually on the inside of the overflow box, and I think it works really well. I don't really hear them at all. They're running right now, obviously, and they are running in my day mode, so this is the max wave that I've got set up right now. I think I still need to do some more tuning on this to get the wave where I want it, but I'm kind of trying to balance between the size of my wave and how much it moves the sediment, the sand that I've got in there. I've got the Fiji pink sand in here. So what I've got is I've got a situation where the tank, the flow within the tank varies throughout the day. What I've got on right now is this is my daytime flow, which is my heaviest flow, and I just turned it to the night flow, so the wave will settle down a little bit here, as you'll see. And then what it does is at night the pumps oscillate between 30% flow and 50% flow, and then in the morning, when it's what I call my sunrise mode, they go from 30 to 75, and you get a little bigger wave. And then during the day, it goes from 30 to 100 when you get the most flow throughout the tank. And I'll set my program to synchronize those to my lights, so as my lights come up, the flow will increase, and then as the lights are at the maximum intensity, the flow will be at the maximum intensity, and then when the lights are essentially off for the night, the flow will be the lowest. So the question is how did I do this? So like I showed in my first video, I am using a Apex controller, and the Apex does all of this for me. So, and like I said, I'll go through the wave here again. Right now it's in the night mode, so that's the slowest. If I put it to sunrise, which it'll ramp up a little bit, you'll see a little bit of a change, not a lot, but when I go to day mode, you'll see a bigger change yet. So you start seeing the wave pick up here. This is sunrise, and again the pumps go between 30% maximum intensity and 75%, so they're running at 3/4. Now if I go to daytime, the pumps will oscillate between 30 and 100. The Tunze pumps, you have a jumper that comes along with them where you can set the output at either 12 volts, 18 volts, or 24 volts. I'm running the 18 volt jumper, so there's more power available in these pumps, but I'm trying to balance, like I said, between the size of the wave in the pump or in the tank and moving the Fiji pink sand that I've got inside here. So this is running in my day mode, and you can see the waves definitely bigger than the night. Like I said, I still need to tune some a little bit just to get my wave to where I want it at. So let's go look at my Apex, and you can see what I've done here. This is kind of a dashboard. There's not, the only thing that's on this dashboard, there's, as you can see, 6 things. There's my Tunze left, my Tunze right. Those are the outlets as they're set up from my VDM module. There's actually 2 more. I can have up to 4 controllable outlets through that VDM module, but since I've only got 2, I put 2 on the dashboard. Over here are the different profiles for the times of day. as you can see, the sunrise, sunset, and night. As I'm filming this, it's actually kind of early in the morning, and so it's actually technically in night mode. And so you'll see I just turned the daytime to auto. You give it a second here, and the night mode will flip on. And when that happens, you'll also see there it just flipped. You'll see over here that on the Tunze it says auto, but it also says right here night mode, or night right, night left. So okay, all these are just different times of the day. So if I go and I look at, for instance, this is the sunset, and okay, I'm not looking at the right thing here. Okay, this is daytime. We'll look at daytime, and all they are is, like I said, it's set up for different times of the day. My sunrise and my sunset both take an hour and a half, and this is my program for my daytime mode. It's very basic. There's nothing to it. It's just a time statement. I'm not using the sunrise sunset feature within the Neptune system or the Apex because of the fact that I'm going to be running the radions, and the radions don't communicate with the Apex. So the radions will have their own timing schedule, and that timing schedule is going to be set based upon time of day, not controlled by the Apex. Now the Apex, if you've got some other lights, I know the aqua illuminations, if you've got those can be controlled directly by the Apex, and so you can set those up on the sunrise sunset schedule that's available through the Apex. But I don't have that, so I'm going to just use a time schedule so that I can coordinate this with my radions. So like I said, that's the basic schedule for the time. Now what I was showing here before, this is a pump profile, and the pump profiles, so what you can see here is, you can see I've set up control type as a pump, and then you get down into the synchronize, divide by, all this stuff. Synchronize just essentially says that you've got other pumps in there that you want to synchronize it with. So, and I said yes, I want to enable that. Divide by 10 allows me to make these next time settings, initial time off, on time, and off time, more precisely. And then the maximum intensity and the minimum intensity, that's the main thing. That's the difference between the different pump profiles. This is a sunset. The sunrise profile actually is the exact same, but the minimum intensity is 30, maximum intensity being 75. I did read in places, I believe it was in the Apex user guide, that if you're running the Tunze pumps, that you don't want to set the minimum intensity below 30, because that can damage the pump. So that's why my minimum intensity is set at 30. So what you've got to make this whole thing work is you've got pump profiles, you've got time schedules with virtual outlets, and then you've got the regular. Let me get down here a little bit. Page down, and then so what then you got is the outlets, the time profiles, and the time. These are actually virtual outlets, and then the pump profiles. And so you make all that work together, and magically you get a wave in your tank. It's not that complex. If you need help trying to set something like that up, I can try and help you. I'm not the best at it, but I'm learning as I'm going through it. You also can go to Reef Central, to the Neptune Systems specific forum, and within there's a sticky at the top of the forum that gives documentation for the Apex User's Manual, and it's pretty good, and it does a lot to help show you what you need to do. But it's not too bad, and it's not that overwhelming, but it just takes time. And one of the things about programming in Apex is it's like any kind of code, that sequence matters, and you've got to think about it in that manner. So the way it reads through the code is critical as to how the code works, because it's kind of like the last statement in wins. So you got to think about that. Anyways, oops, sorry, bumped the camera. So that's about all I've got on my Tunze pumps and my Apex on the VDM module and all that. So if you've got any questions, let me know. And if you got any suggestions and anything I've set up here that I could do differently, or maybe set up better, I would always happy to hear about those. So I just again want to thank all of my subscribers, all the new ones, and all my long-time subscribers. I do have a couple of videos coming out. I'm trying to get more things done on the tank, but things are going to probably slow down for me considerably. My wife is expecting a baby as I'm filming this. It's early Friday morning, and she's scheduled for a C-section on Tuesday of next week, so not much time before the new one arrives, and I'm sure my schedule will get a little busier at that point in time. But I am trying to get a bunch of stuff done before that happens, so hopefully I will have some videos out, some more videos after this one. But please rate, comment, and subscribe. And again, this is Jay Hogscott signing out.